Welcome to this meeting of the Township Board of Education, pursuant to bylaws and applicable laws of the state of New Jersey. Board operates its meetings consistent with the provisions of Robert's Rules of Order, which everybody knows I need my side here for. Alright, so, call to order is, we're ready to go. For the board members, I'll have to start. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Board Office to Schools, Cablevision, Channel 118, Verizon Fios, Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. Meeting is scheduled for today, Tuesday, February 11th, 2014. The Board will take formal action on the payment of bills today, Tuesday, February 11th, 2014.
The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of the state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that the act of recording does not interfere with the business of the public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered a private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of the board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
At this time, we have added a new section to the agenda. We had discussed this at the board meeting, and this is about ethics, and Mr. Weber kindly agreed to read it. So we have a code of ethics that will now be on each agenda. I guess, that since it's the first time we're doing it.
All right. Everything's stuck in
Well, that's after. After.
Okay. Code of Ethics Code, highlighted in line. Every board member will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulation of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures, in accordance with NJSA 18A:12-24-.1.
Thank you. Okay, roll call. Now.
Porcelli?
Here.
Kramer?
Yeah.
Dunn?
Here.
Hopman?
Here.
Mungan?
Here.
Singh?
Here.
Silikowski?
Here.
Weber?
Here.
Andriani?
Here. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will have several, unfortunately, memorials to be read. Excuse me, I'm going to turn my phone down. Jane Dunn and Arlene Sullivan, two of our may I have approval of the minutes? Okay, I don't need that now. Just now. Yes. All right, board members, in your packet, we had our retreat on Saturday. Gwen Thornton has put together a set of goals and what we need to do. I asked her to send that to me as soon as she got it done, and we have it printed out for everyone so that you have a hard copy. If anybody wants it electronically, we can have the board secretary, Mr. Mara, and if somebody from the staff can send it out to you if you want it. Just let me know. It's easy enough. Okay. All right. Recognition. Do we need to have any discussion? The 8th grade Joe Salk student, essay winner 12th grade, donation, free removal of the light blue market rack.
chance.
Should that be added to recognition? I don't know.
We could do that, we could do it then, we could do it in March after the recognition dinner, just to acknowledge that we were there and who was in attendance.
Superintendent's report.
On the report, I was going to talk about the district goals and tie them into the progress towards goals, since one of the goals speaks about the Achieving New Jersey and the teacher and administrator evaluation process that's new to the District of Old Bridge and the state of New Jersey. And I was going to have our assistant superintendent of schools, Dr. Kathy Hoker, give a report as to where we are thus far with that process, the number of observations that's been completed, and where we are with the mid-year evaluation. And as people are checking with their SGO goals as well.
Just as a point of information, in case you didn't hear, our New Jersey State Commissioner of Education resigned today. So, just thought I'd put that out there. Not quite sure what's going to happen
Was he
now.
on the GW Bridge when he did it?
Maybe in the helicopter flying over, I'm not quite sure, but, okay. Correspondence, Mr. Mayor, do you know if we have any at this point? We do not. All right, special committee reports, I don't know if there's anyone who will have anything to report for next Tuesday. I don't think so.
Well, I'll just make a mention of the finance committee coming up, where we're at that time.
Okay, thank you.
We are planning on, just to let everybody know, for later in the month with the public. I believe we're looking at February 27th, but I'll confirm that next week.
Yeah, and also, either under the banner of strategic planning and long-range planning, there should be a meeting on the 20th.
Okay.
Thursday, for one of those two, determination under which banner.
We will have a curricular meeting, I believe, on the 24th, the Monday, and technology.
Should we, at that time, should we report on our retreat, or is that not necessary? No? Okay, okay. Facilities use, we have the list here, if anybody has any questions, this would be a good time. Mr. Mara, would you like to have, let's see if we have any here in the residence
Yes, sir.
Alright, that's fair. Alright, hearing the residents, do we have any questions, concerns, complaints? Bill list items? I have two people in 2 years now. One's whispering agenda and one's whispering bill item. Anybody know? Okay. Moving right. All right.
Supposed to be just action items and the only actions.
Yes, it's the bill.
All right, we have some, buildings and grounds, we have some facilities issues that we need to discuss. And, since we have the facilities use, before we go into our public meeting, this might be the opportunity to have these people come in and explain. I don't know the names of the gentlemen, that are here representing their particular companies. Mr. Merritt can certainly introduce those. And, this way they won't sit while regular business part of the meeting. Mr. Merritt?
Okay, under supplies and equipment, we'll start with resolution number 3. Mr. Dudley Warner is here from Township Borough. And there are actually 2 proposals on the agenda that relate to underground storage tank problems that the district has. And what has happened is these underground storage tanks were removed in the district back in the early 90s. And there's an issue with them now, and we dealt with the first 3 issues we believe effectively. And now another issue has arisen in the last 2 weeks where there was an underground tank removed at the Nike base, that the paperwork also was not submitted to the state correctly. It's this again, I think it was a nightmare. So, Mr. Dudley, if you
Sure.
could just tell us about your two proposals and the issues of the underground storage tanks.
Okay. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I'm Dudley Warner. I work with French and Perillo Associates. I'm a licensed site remediation professional in the state of New Jersey. And we basically have old historic underground storage tank issues at the Cedar Ridge High School, the Jonas Salk Elementary School, the Carl Sandburg Middle School. Those three we've been working on for some time, and that was the first proposal that I gave to Mr. Mara. More recently, which came across, it's called the Board of Education Transportation Facility. That one is kind of new to us, so I'm just coming up to speed on that one. But essentially, the tanks were pulled back in the early 90s, and in the state of New Jersey, you have to follow many different regulations and reporting requirements and soil testing requirements and groundwater testing requirements. And for whatever reason, the investigations were not carried through to the liking of the state DEP. So these cases are still open. We've been working on them. We're trying to get them closed as quickly as possible so that you maintain full compliance with the DEP regulations, and we can close the books on these, get case closure, which is now called a response action outcome, and basically get this off your plate and you can move on to more important things.
Can you explain what the $49,575 fee is for the three facilities, Cedar Ridge, Salk, Sandburg?
Yes. Those were the, originally we had 4 schools given to us by Mr. Mara. The first school, the name escapes me. We were able to close that one out quickly because the state actually had a no further action letter, which we found once we started doing our investigation out with the Carpenter School. So then what happened is we went out and we did some investigative work at the other 3 schools, the high school, the Jonas Salk School, and the Carl Sandburg School. And the first 2, Cedar Ridge High School and Jonas Salk, the investigations went well. The results we got back from our soil testing were favorable, which leads us to the next step, which is to write the response action outcome. That, for each school, is a cost of $2,450. It's administrative, it's paperwork. Once we write the REO, those schools will be closed out, and the DEP will stop bothering you on those 2 schools. Unfortunately, at the Carl Sandburg Middle School, the results did not come back as favorable as the other 2 schools. And what is required is we have to go back there and actually dig up some of the soil that was put in the hole back in 1990. When they closed the excavation, they used backfill, but when we tested it, it didn't meet the requirements of what the state calls clean soil today. So at the Carl Sandburg Middle School, we have to dig out the soil, we have to put back clean soil, we have to continue with some groundwater testing, we have to write a report and do a bunch of administrative things, and then if it all culminates, once we get favorable results back, we write the response action outcome. The cost for Carl Sandburg is $44,675, which brings the total to $49,575.
Does that include actually digging up the earth and sending it somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay, so that's all, so when this is all over, everything is fixed at the Sandburg Middle School?
Yes.
And I think that with the Sandburg Middle School they're talking about is the grade 9 center?
Yes. Yeah, exactly, right back there.
The old location.
Yes.
Cedar Ridge being this one?
Cedar Ridge is this building, but Cedar Ridge is okay.
Cedar Ridge is okay.
And it's the old
Joe, what kind of tanks were they?
Heating, I think they were heating.
They were mostly number 4 fuel oil.
I have a couple of questions. Over these years, since the early 90s, we're talking like over 20 years,
Yes.
has there been any exposure or any kind of potential harm to the students?
No. No. Most of the areas are covered with pavement where the tanks were. I think all of them were, so there's no exposure.
And the implication was that it wasn't reported correctly in the early 90s. Would have been a fault of the school district or the company?
I don't know that it wasn't reported correctly. I wasn't here back then. for some reason, the chain of closure didn't go to the end in the 90s. I don't know why.
Mr. Mayor, do we have any indication who the contractor was back then? Because theoretically speaking, the chain of custody didn't occur correctly with the NFA. And if we paid for remediation of this work, and we didn't get the results that we were supposed to in '94, I think we should use this as recourse. Now, I'm not sure if there's any history, but this is just not a small project where it goes undocumented.
It's my understanding that the contractor that did the work is bankrupt.
Yeah, it was PMK, the contractor.
And back then, I'm not trying to say that the district didn't do its job, but wouldn't there be someone responsible with the school district to ensure that we obtain all the correct custody of the NFAs and all the information that went to DEP to give us correct closure?
The simple answer is yes, but can I we cannot find any documents in-house relating to any of these transactions where the tanks were moved.
So, in essence, this wouldn't be covered under any kind of
No.
insurance? There's no environmental insurance the district has to cover such?
Again, this happened in 1994 and 1993. We had no environmental insurance in place.
Do we have environmental insurance now?
We have it now, but we didn't have it then.
But our insurance wouldn't
No.
cover an unknown from back then?
No. Yeah, we already went that route with the first 3 cases, and the insurance company rejected it.
It's not a name, though. It's not a name. I have a question.
Yes.
The contractor and or the administration were remiss in doing their reporting, let's assume that. How did this notification process come? Did the state tell us after 23 years that we haven't done this?
Yes. Yeah, the DEP, in May of 2012, the DEP kind of changed the way they clean up sites in the state. It's when they switched over to the LSRP program. And what that triggered is a lot of DEP correspondence that went out to underground storage tank owners, commercial properties, people with drums, storage spills, you name it, who, and some of the cases go back, a lot of them go back to the 90s, some go back further. And it was basically the DEP saying, you got to do something. Your case is still open, you have to take care of it.
And Frank, it was just the same case, the first case for the 19,975. 3 weeks ago, we got a letter saying that we didn't do something in 1994. That's basically when it started.
Now, the other question is, since it's not closed out now, we are now required to meet the updated standards?
Correct.
Okay, because, I mean, years ago, you could just fill the old tank with sand, on a residential level, and that's all changed.
Correct.
Let me ask you a question concerning sampling. You said that over at Carl Sandburg Middle School, you went through a whole litany of sampling. Did you take groundwater samples? Did the groundwater come back contaminated, or it's just a fill that you utilized to fill in the void when you pull the tanks out?
What we did at Carl Sandburg was originally, it's called a site investigation. We took soil samples as if we were just closing the tank. Obviously, it was just taken out years ago, but we had to kind of redo. We had to take a step back, right? At that time, we took a groundwater sample. The sample came back clean, but at that point, we didn't know that there was a problem with the historic fill, which is mostly a metals problem. I'm sorry, not with the historic fill, with the backfill. So we have to do additional groundwater testing.
So the groundwater came back as good, and groundwater is at about 15 feet, 17 feet? In that
No,
particular area?
very shallow here.
It's very shallow?
2, 3, 4 feet.
So that's the preliminary results show that it's a good result. So-
Well, but we weren't analyzing for what we found in the fill.
Okay,
Because
so
we
you
didn't
analyze
know.
just for petroleum-based products? then?
Correct. Yeah, volatiles and semi-volatiles.
Okay, so now when you do a new test of the groundwater, you're gonna be checking for metals and other contaminants that was in that fill?
Correct.
And how much fill was disposed of there, or how much was utilized to
Off the top of my
settle
head,
that void?
we took the tank, I'm not sure, the tank